Hello everyone, welcome to our talk show. Today we have an interesting topic about asbestos. So today we still have Robert King here to discuss about this topic with us. Welcome Robert.
Hi there, thank you.
Yeah, we know asbestos is bad for us, and you are really experienced about mold and home inspection. So talk something about how it's bad for us.
Well, asbestos is very hazardous for you. Depending on the type of asbestos that you're dealing with, if it's at a friable state, meaning it's at a fibrous state, then if you can breathe it in, or you can ingest it, or it can go through your bloodstream, your pores in your body, and once it's in your body, then what can happen is that you can suffer from asbestosis, which is an impairment in the lungs, or you can get lung cancer or mesothelioma. A lot of different things, bad things can happen from this, and once it's in your system, once it's in your system, it actually deteriorates the inside of your respiratory system.
And where can you most likely to find asbestos in our houses?
Typically, houses that are born in 1970 or a lot earlier, they used a lot of asbestos materials inside whatever materials they're using to build the house. But for simplicity, what I can tell you is that depending on the if the asbestos is friable or not, will determine the risk or the hazards that are involved. So where do you find it? You find them in the basements, for example. If you see 9x9 tiles, right, vinyl tiles, there's a good high probability that those are asbestos. But just keep in mind, non-friable, these are at a hardened state. So for it to get into a fibrous state, you have to break it into many, many pieces before it would even get into the air. And that would be very hard to do to break those tiles. The second type of asbestos that's common within older homes is that if you have a boiler system, so i.e. you have radiators inside your house, that the piping itself is covered by asbestos wrapping, right? So that's friable, non-friable, and what I mean that it's friable is that if there's a tear in the asbestos wrapping, then that could be a cause of concern. The most worrisome, or the risk or the high level of health hazard for asbestos would be if you find vermiculite inside your attic area. Vermiculite, absolutely. It's been known that there are 3 suppliers out there, and one of them used asbestos material. And asbestos is bad for you, as we mentioned. So
what it looks like?
What does it look like? Oh, good question. Well, it just happens to be.
Oh, you have a simple key.
Yeah. Here you go. I actually have 2 containers that contain vermiculite. And let me just show our audience. And they look very similar. And by just looking at it, you can't really determine whether or not if one is asbestos or not.
Yeah, which one is?
Right. You can't know. You can't know. I mean, you can guess. Can you guess?
This one?
Well, this one here actually is not. This one actually has. These 2 have been tested.
Oh, should be tested.
Right, absolutely. So if you see that you have vermiculite inside your attic, then you need to go ahead and have it tested, right? And then the labs can identify whether or not you have any asbestos content in there. And they say that if it's 1% of the actual sample that's picked up, then that in itself is cause for alarm, right? The rule of thumb, though, is that if you're better off not being exposed to asbestos than being exposed to it. So the rule of thumb here is after having it tested and it identifies what you have, that you should go ahead and remove it if you have asbestos or not.
Yeah. Okay. So if you find asbestos in the houses, what should you do?
Well, this is where you should, under those 3 scenarios, the 9x9 tiles, or the asbestos wrapping around the pipes, or if you have vermiculite inside your attic, in all cases, you should just have it removed, and by calling an asbestos removal company, right? And they themselves will go ahead and take the proper precautions and when they remove it. So they come in with their hazmat suits, they're dressed in white, right? They're like they call them their astronaut uniform, and they would use that and go in there and they would physically be removing the materials in a safe manner.
Yeah. One more question. If a home inspector write a report like suspected asbestos, what should the homeowners or the potential buyers need to do? Test it first or just remove it?
Okay, very good question. So we'll use the example of the vermiculite, right? First of all home inspectors are supposed to identify as a suspected asbestos.
Yes.
Right, because we cannot tell you that you have it or not by just looking at it.
Yeah, because you need to test first.
Absolutely. But I can tell you in the case of the vermiculite, right, and through our experiences in this company, is that we may do testing and we find that there's been cases where they commingle the materials, meaning they take asbestos material and they take non-asbestos material and they mix it together. And in your attic, when we take samples, we only take a couple samples. It's not a true indication of the whole attic area. So we always say that if you have vermiculite inside your attic, it's very important to have it removed.
Not test.
Why have it tested? The testing only will look at a small sample, and it's not a true indication of the rest of the attic.
Okay, we get it. So do not waste the money.
Don't. We unless you really are adamant about it, but at the same time, its function of doing an actual testing doesn't serve too good of purpose because it doesn't represent the whole rest of the attic. So we find that take that money that you would use to test and have it put it towards the removal of asbestos inside your attic area.
Yeah, that's a good choice and a good idea.
Yeah, we find that a lot of clients are appreciative of that because we're saving them money.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Robert. Thank you to come here to talk about asbestos.
You're welcome. Anytime. I'd be more than happy to go ahead and talk about any other subjects that you want to talk about.
Okay. So if you want to get more information about asbestos, go to our website.
Yeah, the website is www.superiorhomeinspectors.ca. And if you want to send an email, you can send it to me at info@superiorhomeinspectors with an S on the end, .ca.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.